No, 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 no. There's always a choice. Come on, put it on the screen. Just say, I have a choice. Do not be a victim to your mind. And when you pick up these cliches and you make these statements, even for the narcissist was at first a victim. And that's why the narcissistic personality is so damaging. It's so horrible for the narcissist. And you might hear maybe some empathy with me towards the narcissist. And it's because they actually didn't have a choice. They were abused emotionally, sometimes physically, sometimes sexually, growing up as a child. They didn't have a choice then. They were the child of an adult. They couldn't leave. They couldn't take care of themselves. There was nowhere that they could make a decision to free themselves to go. They were the victim of some toxic upbringing. That's when they were a victim. But guess what? 18 years, 21 years, 25 years of age, 35 years of age, 45, 55, 65 years of age, you're not a victim anymore unless you kept the mind of the victim of your childhood. If you kept the mind from the trauma of your childhood, you have perpetrated a memory from the past, brought it current in your current situation, your current reality, and now you have a victim mentality, and it is wrecking heck in your life. To be a victim, I want to say it again. I want to get this stuck in your head. You know, I believe in faith comes by hearing and hearing. I believe in that. The term victim indicates a situation in which the person has no other choice than to endure the abuses, the damages, and the mistreatment perpetrated by someone else. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? This is good. Awesome. Let me put that on the screen. I like that choice. Yeah, we always have a choice. Listen, what is codependency? What is codependency? It's emotional dependency. Codependency is emotional dependency. And because relationships are important to everyone, it is actually our human nature to engage in relationships and to grow through them. Life itself is a relationship. But what do you do when you are in a problematic relationship? What do you do when you find yourself depending on someone else emotionally? It's obviously a distorted way of living in any type of relationship, which causes both symptoms and unpleasant effects. And it has to be addressed and resolved to restore the right balance between yourself and the other person. So let's take a closer look for a moment at the condition of emotional dependency. The condition of emotional dependency. What is it? How to recognize it and how to get out of it. I think Thomasina keeps blowing up my screen. Can somebody text her and tell her to get on my live, please? Thank you. She's a daughter. I can do that. What is dependency? Somebody ask me, what is dependency? Yes, Deja, it is very hard to see that you have a choice. It's a belief that you have to take on. It's like faith. It's like faith. You don't see it, but you have to believe it. And once you do that, your mind will begin to work automatically better habits. It will have an automatic thought process that is better and it's healed and it's a forward movement mindset than always retorting to, I don't have a choice. You did so well. I didn't have a choice. You got fired. I didn't have a choice. Well, where do you have choices at in your life? Who's running your life? So let's take a closer look at the condition of emotional dependency so we can understand what it is, how to recognize it, and how to get out of it. We probably won't get into all that tonight because I really want to hit this victim thing tonight. Addiction is broad. And I'll be so glad when we grow up, especially in the church, to realize that addiction is way more than drugs. Addiction is broad, multifaceted, and it affects many areas. One can be addicted to a person. Did you know that? One can be addicted to a person or several people. You can have an addiction to a person or several people. You can be addicted to animals. You can be addicted to things. One can be addicted to situations involving several people. People can be addicted to gossip. They can be addicted to football. One can be addicted to environments. People will move and move and move and move, chasing the sun. And the only one son they need. And they can find him in prison and be happily ever after. But people have dependencies, they have addictions, they have habits. Considering emotional dependency of a person as a phenomenon unrelated to any of the context of dependency would really make this thing simple. Those who are effectively dependent on a person usually repeat the same pattern or attitude in other areas of their lives, such as their relationships with food, with their body, with their home, with their mobile phone, and so on. Did you hear that? Those who are affected, those who are effectively dependent on a person usually repeats the same pattern or attitude in other areas of their lives, such as relationships with food, with their body, with their home, mobile phones, even with their job. Someone put in the screen, relationships. Yes. Therefore, for the solution of the issue of emotional dependence, it is certainly helpful to widen your scope to understand what dependent is in a larger sense. Whether it is a matter of dependency on people or on things, thank you, Ebony, the motive is the same. Did you hear what I said? Whether it is a matter of dependency on people or on things, the motive is the same. You are trying to fill an inner hole of emptiness that you do not want to face. Come on, there's 60 of you on here. Hit a like for me. Post a comment for me. Come on. Whether it is a matter of dependency on people or on things, please understand that if you have an emotional dependency on people, that emotional dependency is on other places in your relationships, in your life. And whether it is a matter of dependency on people or on things, the motive is the same. And this is the motive. One tries to fill up an inner hole, an emptiness that one does not want to face. Is that you tonight? The motive is the same. You're trying to fill a place in you. You're actually using the other person. That's what's amazing about it. The codependent is using the narcissist in this context. Isn't that interesting? Trying to read your comments for a minute, and I want to post this up here because I need y'all to take this away. I need this to hit y'all journals tonight because we are going to make some changes in our lives. Now read this post that we're putting up here now. The motive of emotional dependency is that you are trying to fill up an inner hole, an emptiness that you do not want to face. by using the external presence of someone or something comforting. So as much as the narcissist is abusing the codependent is using the narcissist. You all right over there? You see how this pattern and this dynamic work? This is when we start to refer to things as toxic. What we call toxic, sometimes we're just, it's like saying I have no choice. This external object is thereby given enormous power by the codependent. The codependent will notice that you are dependent when you realize you cannot do without it. You will notice the enormous power that you give this thing and how dependent or codependent you are when you cannot do without it, even a person. The thing is, or the person on which you depend has become more important than you. You need to write that down in here. The thing or person becomes more important than me. See, this is healthy when we do it with God. When we realize his importance and his value is worth more than our own. But through a loving relationship with God, he does not want you to think of yourself as less than. We make statements like, I'm just a wretch undone. I'm just a sinner saved by grace. God put so much into making you. He never called you any of those things. He called you wonderfully made. You're made in the image and the likeness of Christ. He doesn't like those terms that we use to describe ourselves, to use a so-called humble approach, because God thinks awesomely of you. He thinks so much of you. And the only thing he wants for you is to depend on him, not on man, not even your spouse. There is a healthy dependency on your spouse, and then there is an unhealthy dependency on your spouse. Because your spouse, in part, fulfills a great emotional need for us. But an emotional need should never become an emotional dependency. Come on, y'all. Come on. And that's when we give this other thing or this other person enormous power. They have become more important than us. You are not your own master, but the slave of the thing you depend on. Come on, let's bring it home. You are not your own master, but the slave of the thing you depend on. Now, I'm going to skip this part tonight because I do want to talk at some point. I'm going to try to get on twice a week. So perhaps the second day that I get on this week, we'll talk about the causes. Like, how did I get like this? But I want to talk about this victim because this was the theme of why we were getting on here tonight. The victim. Let's go scroll down here at my notes. Let me see. Getting out of the victim role is a particularly crucial step towards your healing. Getting out of the victim role is a particularly crucial step towards your healing. Often when we talk about codependency and narcissism, we refer to them as the victim and the executioner. Y'all know who the victim might be, and you know who the executioner might be. We look at people's marriages and we can kind of see one spouse who's a little rude and a little maybe unemotional towards their other spouse, and we automatically think we have summed it up. But I want you to listen here. When we talk about codependency and narcissism, we refer to a victim and an executioner. Although these terms are valid and useful to describe their dynamics within that relationship, neither the narcissist nor the codependent are actually victims. And we should know now why, right? Because we know the proper term for being a victim. Let me explain this a little bit better. Hey, Elsie, what do we mean by the term victim? The term victim, again, is someone who is in a situation. My screen is popping, y'all. Hang on. Someone who is in a situation in which they have no other choice than to endure abuses, the damages, and the mistreatment perpetrated by someone else. That would mean more of a child. It would mean someone held at gunpoint, someone sex trafficked, someone being kidnapped. If none of those apply to your current situation, stop saying, I have no choice. That's the title I should have put up there tonight. However, both the codependent and the narcissist always have the freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. It came from God the Father. Although it is always an extremely hard choice, choice exists. Put that on the screen. Choice exists. The codependent always has the freedom to ignore the narcissist's threats, to not stand the abuses, and to distance themselves from the narcissist. The narcissist, on the other hand, always has the choice to not exploit their codependent partner, not threatening their codependent partner, the choice to not manipulate or mistreat their codependent partner. The fact is that it is always the choice of both parties to decide to live in this situation. You are not a victim. Both of you have made the choice, have decided to live in this situation. Come on and wipe your eyes, wipe your tears, because some of y'all are mad at him. You're mad at him for what he did to you. But I'm going to free you tonight. But I'm not going to give you the petting and the freedom that you think you're going to get. I'm going to remind you that you both decided to stay in that situation. You both decided to live in that situation. You both knew you were unhappy. One of you was extremely unhappy. You stayed in the relationship and you tried to play the victim card. We stayed because of the kids. We stayed because of the business. We stayed because of the debt. We stayed because we had no choice. What am I going to do? We stayed because we were Christians. We stayed because of the family. We stayed because I wouldn't be able to live financially on my own. You have a choice. The choice always exists. Both parties decide to live in their current situation. God be for us. Come on, if that's you, just lift your hands. If God be for us. Does this mean that two people consciously, willingly choose to stay and suffer in a toxic situation? Not really. Let me finish. I think I have enough time to finish. 49 minutes we're on so far. The codependent. Yes, Elsie, we're going to have about 10 of us dropping the mic now. The codependent stays because they are convinced that they do not have any other choice. The codependent is convinced that they have no other choice. This does not apply to situations of emotional dependency, but to all other situations in general. A person does not decide to become addicted to a substance or develop toxic behavior. A person becomes addicted when they are convinced, do y'all hear me, that they have no other choice. And often this is also the case for codependence. I need my lab coat on tonight. I need my doctor coat on tonight because the doctor is in the room. Yes, Nisi. They are convinced. A person does not just leave their childhood life and say, I'm going to be an addict when I get older. I'm going to be addicted to drugs and food and prescription drugs and alcohol and sex and gambling. I'm just going to be addicted to overspending and I'm going to be addicted and just live an addicted lifestyle. Nobody chooses to do that. They become addicted because they take on the belief that they have no other choice. And then they develop a toxic behavior. A person becomes addicted when they become convinced that there is no other choice. Frequently, in fact, among the various lies that you tell yourselves and the manipulation that comes from narcissists, there is one of the biggest lies that traps the codependent person. The lie that only through the narcissist can the codependent feel better, be happy, find relief, and have pleasure. Should I repeat that? Among the lies, Pastor D said, we have officially entered the detox room. Absolutely. In fact, with all the lies and the manipulation that the narcissist projects, one of the biggest lies that traps a nice person, a naive person, a person who moves by their heart and not their mind, what traps them and causes this codependent dynamic in this relationship to blossom is not only the lie that comes through the narcissist, the lies that actually makes the codependent feel better. They believe that the narcissist is the only person that can make them feel better, be happy, find relief, and have pleasure. You know why? Because the codependent needs to save somebody because they couldn't save themselves from whatever trauma they had. They could not save their mama from her lifestyle that kept mommy from loving you. They could not save their father and cause their father to come into a loving relationship with them. So because they could not have these things in their lives, they feel that they failed at saving these relationships. So they need someone to save. So they go out with the saving mindset. They attract the narcissist who wants to be saved, but not really. And now they have the dynamic for toxicity that could go on for years, if not forever. All of the tools that the narcissists use to make the codependent fall into and keep them in a relationship, traps and lies to which the codependent often believes, having never experienced an alternative before. But truth be told, they both have a choice. And between the two, the one who normally decides to get out of these dynamics is the codependent. But it takes a lot of work. They'll usually have a loss of a lot of friends, loss of family, often loss of children. Their children will leave them. Their children will have very estranged relationships with whichever parent is the codependent in this type of relationship, because this codependent mindset is so draining that it actually starts to drain from resources attached from them. So if I'm a codependent, I'm going to drain from my girlfriends. I'm going to drain from my granddaughter. I'm going to drain from my son. I'm going to drain from anybody who I can get around, because I have to pull in resources to feed my narcissist. They need somebody to save. And that's what keeps them with the narcissist. It's not even about love anymore. It's not even about finances anymore. It's about saving. The codependent person feels more empathy and has a conscience. The codependent person is the first to realize and understand that something is actually wrong here. Their intuition tells them that something doesn't add up, but I love him. They're the first one to start searching for answers, and it could take them 20, 30 years, and friends and family are long gone by because they cannot be drained by this codependent. Between the two, the codependent is the one who makes the choice to face the pain instead of letting their pain be used for emotional threats. The codependent chooses to confront their traumas, to face growth and heal instead of letting these traumas be a hook for the narcissist to use in toxic relationships. Very hard to get a narcissist into an office. Would probably have to be something legally they broke in by the courts or some other higher power would get the narcissist to actually seek therapy because it's done so unknowingly. It's become a pattern since, remember, the trauma from their childhood. I had a gentleman call me some years back, wanted to make an appointment, and he said, I forget who it was that told him that he was probably a narcissist and needed to start getting some help on it. And I didn't get back to him in time. And this man went off on me so bad. And I want to say to him, by the way, you're a narcissist. He just went off. He was insane, just fumed. But the first person that I met when he called, so charming, so elegant, such a victim. You know, his girlfriend said, and he was just such a victim. And then the real snake came out. So what is the point in all of this? It is that between the two, the one who is the victim, if any, who chooses to remain a victim, usually is the narcissist. Usually is the narcissist. And how do I say this? Because the narcissist has been a victim in their childhood all the time. A codependent could have suffered some emotional issues in a recent relationship or marriage and therefore became codependent in their adult life. But all narcissists started in childhood and with childhood trauma, and trauma could include not getting the emotional attunement that they needed. Codependents aren't always from childhood. And that isn't that heavy, right? So I want you to stop and think. You have a choice to face a healing process if you found yourself on either side of this, and to get out of a sick circle of toxic relationships in your life, relationships with food or relationship with a narcissist, relationship with your money or relationships with sex. You have a choice. You have a choice to get out of the toxic relationships. But the narcissist, listen to this. The narcissist instead spends a lifetime in a state of victimhood, trying to defend at the cost of his or her own life the imaginary reality that he or she created. You hear that? The narcissist will spend a lifetime. If you're with a narcissist, you're giving your life. They're not going to change. I'm sorry. So who are the real victims? The real victims are the children who grow up in these abusive family situations. That's who the real victims are. The children who grew up in these situations, who are now adults and trying to figure out love and relationship and child rearing, how to love themselves, how to treat themselves with self-worth, how to love their spouse and trust their spouse. The real victim of these toxic relationships from the abuse in these families are the children who grew up with parents who were emotionally abusive, absent, careless, more into their man. They do not have a choice other than to tolerate and endure the abuse because they had no other way out. That's a victim. Kids had no way out. The parent corresponds to survival to the child. Without parents, these children cannot survive. Other real victims are even the animals that grow up in the house with these people. Listen to this. They have no way of expressing their disagreement or setting themselves free from their owner's control. Animals are therefore forced to tolerate and endure everything imposed upon them by humans. So both the narcissists and the codependents have been victims in their past. One grew up in an emotionally unhealthy environment dragging their emotional baggage around with them all their life, job to job, state to state, city to city, relationship to relationship, sexual encounter to sexual encounter. And it is therefore the reason they both feel like they are victims. It is precisely these traumas that make the narcissist feel forced to abuse and exploit others, and the codependent feel compelled to live through these abuses and these emotional threats. But in this case, they are not victims in their situations. Instead, they are victims of past unresolved problems and negative emotions. I think that is powerful. If you can, type that up. Victims of unresolved problems, victims of past unresolved problems and negative emotions. Powerful. Victims. Absolute power, right? I love it. Can I get it up there, Ebony? Can you post it for me? It's their traumas, their childhood traumas that keeps them bound. Constance, I wish I knew it decades ago as well. I could simply see a whole part of my life, those relationships just erased out in those years being used for other things. Come on, I see your comments. Yes, come on. And it's these past traumas that makes them feel like a victim, but you are no longer a victim because that's a memory. Let me wrap it up. The victim role takes any responsibility in the situation off of you. Why do we like keeping the victim mindset? Because remaining a victim takes the responsibility off of you. But please understand, choosing to remain a victim not only makes you believe you can take the responsibility off of you, but it also takes away your power. How much more of that are you going to give up in life? Remaining in the victim role takes away any responsibility in that situation. That's why people like to play that victim role. But understand that when you do that, when they do that, it takes away their power also. In the victim role, you give your power to another person and you lose the ability to change the situation. The victim role attracts pity. The victim role attracts pity. So you will often be around people who feel sorry for you because society tells us that the victim is always the good guy. Come on, am I preaching to y'all tonight or what? I'm preaching. The one in the background in my balcony section said, I'm preaching. Woo, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Come on. The victim role attracts pity. The second reason why people do it, not only because it alleviates their responsibility in a situation, it attracts pity. And it causes people around them to feel sorry for them because society has told us that the victim is always the good guy. The devil is a liar. The problem is that remaining the victim will not do anything for your healing. It will not do anything for your healing. And guess what? No one is going to rescue you. So you leave another relationship, you leave another place, you leave another situation because I am such a victim. And I'm not making fun of it. I want to wake you up, give you a mirror image of what you look like. You're a great man. You're a great woman. And you walk around pitiful with a victim mindset. Stop it. Shake it off. God is doing a new thing in you. This is a new season. And you're bringing in Egypt into Israel. God has promised you a promised land. He's opened the doors for your promised land. In fact, you have entered into your promised land, but your mindset is still in Egypt. You are not a victim. You have never been a victim. Even when you were abused, God never called you victim. Never told Joseph he was a victim. You are not a victim. Being a victim will not do anything for you. It will hinder your healing. And guess what? No one is going to rescue you. So you'll lose again. In refusing to be a victim, you will be able to be the one to decide what change in your life you're going to make and how you want to go about it. You can ensure that mistakes are not repeated, because when in a relationship and it seems to be turning into a toxic direction, it will be you holding the steering wheel of your life, not anyone else. But stop running. Stop saying I have no choice. Stop using a victim mindset. It's hurting you, and it's causing your mind to lie to you about your life, about your relationships, about your situations. God sent you where he sent you. He put you where he put you. He set you up for a blessing. Destiny is upon you, and you want to keep playing a victim role. Snap out of it. The devil is a liar. It is your addiction to that thing, that pain, that is actually causing you to relive a memory that's been long lived. Stop allowing the enemy to go back into the recesses of your mind and cause you to relive a childhood, brutal, traumatic, unloving life. When people are in your life now, they're to love you, respect you, hug you, see you forward, and you want to stay a victim because you don't want to accept responsibility for your behavior when you're caught into accountability. You don't want to be respectful to people, but you want to be respected because you're a victim. You can get away with treating people the way you do, and you cannot do that. The devil is a liar, and he's a defeated foe tonight because I'm exposing him in your life. The spotlight is on tonight. What are you going to do about it? Because if you're a victim, I have to talk to you differently. I have to treat you differently. I have to treat you like the little pet who has no choice, or the little child who has no choice. But I need to be able to talk to you as mature adults who are on here of wholeness of mind, soundness of mind, pureness of heart, that you want to get out of your sin-sick situations. You are the head and not the tail. You are not a victim and the tail. You are the head and not the tail. You are the head and not a victim. You are above and not a victim. And guess what else he says? And no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And every tongue that rises up against you, you have been given the authority to condemn. Where do you hear victim in that? Remaining a victim will not do anything for you, and no one is coming to rescue you. Even with God, you got to get up and put something small in his hand. Even with God, you got to get up and take his hand. It's time for you to be the one to decide that I'm going to submit to the leading and the guiding of the Holy Spirit. I'm going to trust him with my life. I'm going to trust him with my current situation. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to continue to blame other people. I'm not going to continue to deflect what's really going on in this situation here. I got a problem with myself. I got a problem in my relationship, and I'm taking it out everywhere else I go. You need to be in the steering wheel of your life. Jesus is not looking to drive the vehicle. He's done it already. He's sitting in his most righteous position right now, and he's looking for you to lead as little lords and little gods. He's looking for kings and queens and his sons and daughters to lead his kingdom, not victors, not people who are always in a victim situation. When you grab the steering wheel of your life back, you will be more authentic, because you are setting your true self free. See, you've been setting that fake person free that lives inside of you. The one your mother groomed because she was fake. The people who raised you groomed because they was fake. You know, they had to live a certain way. They had to act like they had. They had to be the haves and the have-nots. They had to act a certain way. We come from this. This is our last name. You know, this is how we pretend and who we are. And you've learned to take that on. So anytime you've gone to therapy, you didn't show up in your authentic self. So the fake you was ministered to in church. The fake you was given therapy in the therapist's office. The fake you even got on your knees to God. But tonight by the glory of God. You are taking over the proverbial steering wheel of your life, and you are setting yourself free tonight, the authentic side to yourself. You are breaking out of this codependent narcissistic relationship, and you're going to start by, if you're living with one, you're going to let them know, I've been awakened and exposed. I don't have all the information, all the education, but I have enough to come out of darkness. You will no longer treat me like this. I'm going to be honest with myself tonight and say that I do have a choice to stay with you or to leave you. And I have repeatedly decided to stay. It has been my choice to stay with you. Please understand that I no longer feel like I'm trapped in being with you because I would let God down. A divorce would not look good in the kingdom. All the lies that we tell ourselves, that even God has given us a divorce decree to stand on. I realize tonight that I've made a choice to stay with you. I am no longer your victim, and I am no longer a victim of myself. Watch out for me because I'm growing. And if you're not going to grow with me, you're going to get left. And that's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me, God. Come on, decree it with me and declare it. Stop being a victim. Come out.